What's up, everyone? Kaiju no Kami here with
Cruellica Kain.
And as you can see, Silver Quill is not with us because after last week's hug attempt, he has been put into the corner for this week. So he will not be participating in this video. Maybe next week I'll let him record his own side video for us to include in here if he's a good boy. Speaking of not being good boys, or good girls in this case.
I was going to say, I'm a girl, and since Silver Quill is not here to entertain me, I'm playing with my stress ball of Mars. Ah! As you can see, I'm really good at it. Ah!
Anyway, we are going to be talking about Ultraman Trigger, episode 6. For a minute there, I didn't remember what episode it was because those clip shows still threw me off. Episode 6.
Yes, we're at episode 6, and it actually was a good episode. I actually really enjoyed it. So we had a monster of the week that's called Satandelos, or Satandelos, and it is based on a different monster called Gigadelos. But it was modded to become super evil and extreme. And so you actually start the episode in battle with Trigger getting his ass kicked. And I actually personally like when episodes start like that because I'm like, yes, the bad guys may actually win for once. And obviously that doesn't necessarily happen in tokusatsu, but it's still an ultra wish of mine, so to speak, that a villain could win for at least a number of episodes. What is it up with it that villains can't win? Villains are awesome. And then we had Humdrum. Well, his name is Hoodrum. But anyways, what did you think of the episode?
I thought it was better than the last few.
Well, seeing as how we only had one episode prior to this and 2 clip shows.
And episode 4. I would say it's the best episode since 3.
Yeah, which was a month ago.
Oh my god.
A month ago.
But
no, we have to unpack this for a moment. Episode 3. We're at episode 6, which, if you think about it in that spectrum, we shouldn't be a month between. 3 weeks, sure, but...
What? You mean 3 plus 3 is 6?
I know, I can math!
You can math too, apparently.
That's bad.
But yeah.
Drugs are bad, kids.
Whatever. Anyway, this episode, I liked it better than the last few. I liked that we got some more of Ignis and we got a little tiny bit of backstory. The security still sucks for Gut Select because Ignis just shows up and it's like, oh cool, did anyone notice him just coming on here? No? Cool. What do you want? What's up, man?
Iggy, because Final Fantasy 15, is awesome. The only difference between him and Iggy from FF15 is that he doesn't drive all the time, nor is he blind.
But I wish this episode had actually gone more...
You didn't actually pay attention to one thing I said. Drive all the time, blind.
Yeah, I heard. I'm ignoring that. But I will say I did wish they went more into the monster itself because the premise was interesting, but we were pretty much at the tail end of the premise when it all started. I wanted to actually see the days go by with them trying to figure out how to beat this monster.
Well, actually, the one thing I liked is that Gut Select actually did a lot this episode.
They did a lot, but we still didn't get any development for them.
You know, I am going to take a win where I can get one.
The other thing is, of course it was
a win.
Of course, it was a whole plot by Hoodrum. Because heaven forbid that a monster's actually there without Hoodrum or one of those three giants to instigate it.
But, like I said, I'm going to take a win where I can get it. Because every member of Gut Select actually had a purpose. Jafar directed. Dave actually shot the weapon. Schizo actually was competent with the little falcon, or as you call it from Macross. Or
Valkyrie.
The
Gear Rock mode.
And then you actually had Edgelord do something because he upgraded the ship, and Marlulu was helpful as well. I was actually kind of impressed that everybody did something and contributed.
Not everybody. You forgot someone in your whole thing.
Okay. Nepotism was there.
Because she was there.
She was there. But then again, if you honestly think about it, that's a definition of nepotism. You don't work for the opportunity. You're just there.
But
so nepotism actually did accomplish what she was set out to do. So the fact that you're saying that I forgot her means that was the point.
I don't know. Nothing's grasping me anymore after those clip shows so far. Nothing's getting my energy back up for this show.
Okay, let me ask this question then. Between Zenkaiger and Trigger, which one is better?
I don't know, because Zenkaiger's had more time to be disciplined.
No, that's not the question I asked. Which is better?
Okay, by episode 6, I think Zenkaiger was better. Because, one, Zenkaiger didn't have 2 clip shows that completely disrupted the entire flow of the series.
Now, if you disregard the clip shows...
but the problem is I can't disregard the clip shows because we're watching it weekly. If it was something where I was watching it all in one shot, where I could have just skipped over the clip shows and went right to the next real episode, that would be different. But because we are doing this weekly, I can't just say if we ignored the clip shows, because the clip shows still took up 2 weeks. I would have rather it been 2 weeks of nothing airing.
See, I understand why they couldn't do 2 weeks of nothing. For broadcast television...
I don't care.
No, and I probably think of it in American terms, because I don't know what Japan does with regards to broadcast television. I don't know if they re-air reruns or what they do if they have an off week. Because in America, if you have an off week, they just air a rerun.
But I did like some of the stuff with Ignis. Even though right now he's not doing anything extraordinary.
I like that movie. I have to laugh at my own jokes because you're not making jokes because you're all like super serious, and I don't have Silver Quill.
Well, what jokes are there to make? There was nothing happened this entire episode, pretty much. That's the problem. I have nothing to talk about because nothing happened. It started, it went on, it ended. And ended in the most abrupt way possible.
Okay, I will agree with that. It ended they actually improperly cut it.
I thought the screen froze.
Well, same here.
For a moment, I was like, oh, it's buffering. What? Oh, the end credits. What? Okay.
And that was a very abrupt
And
end.
I think that also is what ruined it for me, is that just, took out some of the impact of the battle, because I was just like, huh?
Because the battle was pretty interesting. I actually liked how everyone got involved.
I like the sunset stuff. The battle taking place at sunset. Camera work was nothing extraordinary again.
Well, for me, I think what really drove it as being an interesting episode is you started with Trigger getting his ass kicked, and then you kind of see backwards, going backwards 3 days, even though it was somewhat rushed, you still got to see, okay, this is what's happened for the last 3 days. And then it kind of winds itself to present day, which is where Iggy comes on.
Okay, well, this episode, it actually made me think of, which is where I'm getting it, the one episode of X, I believe it was X, where every day, the monster was returning at the same time, and they would fight it, defeat it, but because they didn't collect all the pieces of it, it came back the next day at the exact same time. We got to see the townspeople getting pissed off that they're not doing their jobs because the monster keeps returning. And you're also having this mystery, wait, is it a time loop going on, or is it that it's legitimately just returning every day? So you had this interesting story, you had these weird camera angles going on, this distortion filter at times, that kept everything interesting. This was just...
paint by numbers?
Yeah, and I think that's my problem, is that they didn't do anything interesting with this concept, because the monster itself had a great concept of it only activates every hour. Well, I wanted to see that actually done. Like, what are the...
1 hour a day.
Well, that's what I'm saying. What are the townspeople thinking? Like, the people living in the city, are they fleeing the city? Or are they just like, well, they're going to defeat it soon enough, so we're just going to wait here and everything. And I think that's one of the things I actually have, now that I'm thinking about it, noticed that there doesn't seem to be any civilian involvement at all in this series. It always seems like these cities, for the most part, are empty cities.
Or you have people running away, but you don't have any engagement.
Right. There's nothing going on from the point of view of the public.
No, I think that's fair, because even in Kamen Rider or other Ultra series,
you see the everyday people.
You see everyday people, or they engage themselves in some way. And I will say that's one of the distant things.
And, okay, if they can't do full-on interactions because of COVID, have news reports tell them, okay, well, public opinion of Gut Select is this because this monster is here and they haven't been able to defeat it for 3 days.
Well, you can't use the... well, because of COVID thing, because if you think about Zenkaiger, for example,
I know, but
still has a lot of public civilian interaction.
I know, but I'm just saying, if that was the reasoning for not having a lot of public people out there, then do with a news report doing it.
But the reason why I'm referencing Zenkaiger is because of the fact that they can't fully use COVID as an excuse, because Zenkaiger found ways to make it work. Obviously, they had the opportunity to make half the people Kikanoids so they could make it work, but there are ways that you could juggle.
Now, I will say one thing that Trigger has better is that they're not just green screen backgrounds. Their ship is an actual set.
Well, yes, I will agree that comparatively, their CGI is much more fleshed out, but I think that's a conversation we've had so many times, because it's half a season versus spread out throughout the entirety of a year. They can actually use their budget much more efficiently.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about the CGI, though. I mean, they have an actual
Well, that's
set.
what I mean.
There is no CGI set.
That's what I mean, because they have the ability to do more sets, whereas in Sentai, they're in that money saver mode, and CGI is a little bit cheaper.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
To a certain degree, it is.
No, it's not cheaper. Actual sets would be cheaper, because then you don't have to keep rendering them over and over. It's a one-time cost unless you need to fix something. For CGI, you've got to re-render them all the time.
Yes, but if you already have saved materials... No, I understand where you're coming from, but I think for the cost equivalency, they're probably looking at it as...
And clearly, as we talk about, Zenkaiger does not have the budget for green screen backgrounds.
But that's also due to the poor ratings.
It doesn't
and
matter.
the poor toy sales.
Then don't do it. Don't do CGI if you can't afford to do it right. But anyway, I just think that the monster concept with this Our Monster should have been really interesting, and there was nothing interesting done with it.
Well, I think what really ruined it was when they're about to go for their attack. Even though you kind of figured it's not going to be that easy because we're only really halfway in the episode, you can't get away with it making that easy. I do kind of think we need a breather from the evil trio.
Yeah, I hate the evil trio already. I do not like them.
Well, because there's no consequence. Because we know, just like with the characters for the most part, their shields are up to max.
Yeah, they're just appearing. Ha ha! This plot was deviated by me. Boom.
Dio.
Battle. They leave.
Well, that's exactly it. Now, come next week, we actually get the return of Zed,
which is kind of interesting because the screenshots for next week's episode was like online when like episode 3 was about to premiere. So I thought that was actually like going to be episode 4.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So it's like, oh wow, it's been like a month and a half since they showed up the Zet crossover, and now we're getting that episode?
Well, I guess the only concern I have about the Zet crossover is I know we had a G crossover for Zet, but that one I feel like was a little bit further in the series.
Yeah, it was like around the halfway point, I think.
Yeah,
because we had already known that the commander dude was Juggler, because when he did his little, I need an adult.
Well, exactly. That's when we figured out that it wasn't just coincidence that was the same actor, that it was purposefully done. So I'm kind of curious of how this is going to manifest, because we obviously know that Zet and Hikaru went out into space at the end of Zet to help with whatever was going on,
which we've yet to find out. And that's the other thing. I hope this isn't the end of this robotic creature thing. Like, even though this one was destroyed, I'm hoping this isn't the end of seeing these robot creatures, because the concept of these monster protectors, or protectors from monsters, is an interesting one.
Oh, it is, because I don't think that was done previously, because I don't recognize that monster design.
I'm pretty sure it's brand new. It kind of reminds me of the Galactrons from Orb and Jeed, or was it X and Orb? No, I think it was Orb and Jeed.
But I was actually really impressed with the monster design itself, because I liked how it had like that like that cyber bio presentation. Like certain things looked cybernetic, other things looked biological.
Well, and that's the other thing, though. They were saying, oh yeah, it's destroyed everything in its path, but they never actually showed us it destroying whatever was in its path.
Like, whereas Shin Godzilla, you actually watched it
because they said it landed on an island, but they never actually showed how it went from the island to the middle of the city.
No, I understand where you're coming from, and there are flaws. By no means am I thinking it's a perfect episode.
I did like when Kengo did use his smile as like a distraction when when Ignis, oh my god, wait a minute, Iggy is from Final Fantasy 15. Yuna is the name of a character from Final Fantasy 10. Where is Sid? We need a Sid.
That'll come someday.
But I did like when Ignis calls Kengo by being Trigger, and then Yuno's like, what? And he's like, smile, yeah!
Well, still, the one thing I'm very impressed with, that no matter how frustrated I get, and I know I've mentioned this in the prior episode recaps, is that the actor for Kengo definitely appears to be a legitimately positive human being. Like, I don't think his positivity, which is contagious as that character, is acting. I feel like it's a natural presentation. Now, I do feel as though the actor for Ignis,
Bosco.
well, Bosco's actor, yes. Once again, I can't remember his actual name, but you can see he's trying to act the hell out of his part.
He's just not given him much material to work with.
He's not given a lot of material, but you can see his acting capabilities compared to others is so much stronger. Because when he's on screen, he steals those scenes. Like when he appears out of nowhere after Kengo gets back onto the Nurse Desi and he's chatting, or he like appears and he literally takes over the scene. Then when they go down to Earth to keep an eye on Satan Delos, and he's talking to Kengo and Yuna's there, he once again steals the scene, and he doesn't even say a word initially to steal the scene.
No, his body language steals
presentation. And he continuously does that, so I'm hoping.
But I don't know if it shows that the other actors just aren't that good.
Well, that's the hard part, is I don't want to say that's downgrading the other actors to not being as strong, but
they're not given material to work with.
They're not given a lot to work with, and depending on their capabilities, because the actor who plays Jafar, he is on it. He is in it to win it as an actor, because him playing off of Ignis when they were talking to each other both times, he does a fantastic job playing off of him.
For David.
Dave.
Okay. I want them, because with Ide's actor from the original series just dying, I want them when they finally start, I want them to start fleshing out his character, but I want his character, because he's got the like silliness personality that Ide had, I want them to have his character reflect Ide's personality as like a tribute to Ide's actor.
No, I think that's fair. Can I just say one really weird thing about Dave's actor? When he screams and he moves his lips back, it looks like his jaw and teeth are coming out of his mouth. I'm like, is he an alien? Like, not alien as an Ultraman alien. I mean like alien from the... Xenomorph, yes. Because I see his teeth, like his jaw extending out of his mouth slightly, and I'm like, okay, that's awesome, and that's crazy creepy at the same time. Just had to mention that because I saw it happen 2 times in the episode, and I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this because I'm like terrified. But the other thing I really like about Dave's actor, and I think this is because of how the character is presented, even though he's not...
Hello, Dave.
Well, he is like a pocket full of energy. Like, I don't know if it's the actor himself naturally,
I think it is,
or how it's the character.
Because look at how he was in Jeed.
That's true. He just has so much energy. And I just could see him running sprints around the set just because he has so much energy to give off.
And they're not. And right now they haven't done anything with him to utilize that energy.
Because you see him doing random squats or doing other exercise things. And I'm like, this is why he's Dave. Because
hello, Dave.
The person we're referencing him off of is the exact same way. It's like in real life, I could see the person we're referencing doing sprints around the room without any like lack of energy. He would still have the same amount of energy they had at the start, at the end, if not more. Schizo's actress, I kind of feel...
She's a one note. Right now, she's just playing the same thing over and over.
Because the whole seriousness that we had of the actress, where she went from serious to happy, that seriousness is gone.
Well, that's all she is at this point.
Because that's the one thing that really disappoints me. Because when we were introduced to her in episode 2, and she did it in episode 2 and episode 3, where she had her serious, like, super serious nature. And then when she was behind the seat for the cockpit for the Falcon, she was like happy-go-lucky. So that's why we gave her that nickname. But my concern is she doesn't have that diversity that she was presented as having.
No.
And I don't like that because I want characters to have those contrasting notes if they can. Because even Akito, he even has a little bit of diversity in his character. He still is very edgelordy, which is the reason for that name, but you can actually see his competence coming through at the same time that justifies his edgelordiness. So Yuna and Schizo, because I can't remember her character name. That's the problem.
Yeah, I don't even know. Well, he obviously did call on her to this episode.
But those two actresses.
I don't remember any of their names actually.
Well, because we've been calling them by their nicknames for so long, I just don't even think of their real names. But for those two female characters, I am actually not impressed. And
they're terrible female characters.
Well, compared to other female characters that we've had in other series, even with some of the Kamen Rider stuff we've watched, we've had hella stronger female characters.
Well, and that's the other problem, is that compared to all the previous Ultraman shows you've watched, the only one I would say is weaker than them is Saki from Rube. But because Arisa and Ginga, I can't think of the girl's name in... Well, all of them. For Jeed, both female characters in Jeed.
Well, absolutely. Even Orb. The female character in Orb was great.
But they were all better.
Well, and you could see, even if this was their first or second or early career roles, you could actually see their talent. And this is not to say that the actresses in Trigger are not talented, but
there's nothing to make them stand out.
There's nothing to make them stand out, and I just feel like not everyone is meant for a tokusatsu role. I know tokusatsu is supposed to be like that entry-level role in Japan, what horror is in America. In America, we use horror movies as that way to
that gateway.
That gateway of saying you can cut it as an actor or an actress, because horror can be tremendously difficult because there's so much emotion that goes into the role. Whereas in tokusatsu, you have so much diversity that you have to do as a character. You have your character for how you have to present to your teammates, you have your character of how you present to the public.
And then you have all those tight schedules because you have to keep up with all this filming schedule for essentially for most series a year-long show. And
I know it's got to be tough. I am not even going to try to even say I can understand what they're going through, because while I have tight schedules within what I do professionally, it's not to the point where if I don't do A, B, and C, things are not going to come out on time. It's not going to be the end of the world. Whereas in here, you have a tight schedule because you have commitments to toy products, to advertisers, to other stage shows. You have so many commitments that go on during and even long thereafter what you do. And so you have to act the hell out of your role. And you have to stand apart too. Because even if you're not given a lot of material, you have to be able to make the most of it to be able to go into those next level roles. And disappointingly enough, for all of the tokusatsu series that we have seen, not as many female actresses have the opportunity to successfully have a long-standing career. They may get bit parts or anything like that, but they don't tend to have that staying power. And this is not to say that all of them don't get those chances, but you can definitely see who's got it and who doesn't have it.
Who don't?
Who don't have it. Yep, I'm going with bad English. But overall, I know I'm being nitpicky, but I kind of feel like that's the responsibility of an audience.
Oh my god, now I'm just thinking when we watch that kaiju in a few minutes, like, okay, how's this gonna compare to Trigger? Trigger.
Well,
So when we record the video for that kaiju, I could be like, you know what, I like Trigger better.
no, and honestly, that's why I try to look at tokusatsu in three portions. The story, the characters, and the actors. Because you can have incredible actors, shit characters, and a fantastic story. Because we have seen other tokusatsu series where the story was incredible, the characters...
Well, or we had more recently the reverse, where the story was messy, when the characters themselves really tried, for a lot of them, to make up for the messy story.
Well, they tried like hell. Like, you could see the effort day in and day out. The story was shit. The character development was minimal, but the actors were in it. They were committed.
And they were trying. Most of them were trying their best.
Well, they were committed like hell to it. And sadly, we can't talk about it yet, which frustrates me. I hate you.
Don't worry.
But, so, like, let's use Cure Major as an example, because that's the most recent one. Story had flaws, but it was good. The characters, both hero and villains, were phenomenal. There was so much development for every member of that cast. The actors were very tight. Even when they had to act silly by Super Sentai standards, because it's a children's show to a degree.
They did it effectively well.
They did it effectively well. You could see even when it wasn't their comfort zone as an actor or an actress, they still figured out how to try to make it work. And that's the standard I live by. I can't live by the Die Ranger standard of acting because, one, that is in the 90s. Entertainment changes every decade.
If they were all Die Ranger, they'd all be doing it right.
I am not going to justify that answer. But you have different groups of people coming up each decade. And so So I would say if I look at the decade standards, since this is the 50th year? What year are we in for Ultraman?
The 55th.
55th year. So if we take it from the beginning to now, I kind of feel like these female characters are an insult to the nature. At this moment in time, we're at episode 6. At episode 6, I feel like these female characters and a number of the male characters, or male actors and female actresses, do not hold to the standard of what has been set out by many of their predecessors. And I'm hoping it improves. The only thing I ask for Subaraya is please don't give us any more clip shows.
I was about to say, no more clip shows. No more freaking clip shows.
I don't even understand, and I'm going to call out Gundam Seed for the same thing. There is no
Gundam Seed Destiny
reason for any series that is less than 50 episodes to have more than 2 clip shows. And even 2 is pretty high.
2 for, well, I think 2 for a 50 episode series is still pretty high, but fine, 1, okay, whatever. You need a week to catch up or a holiday, fine, cool, whatever. But not when it's your 5th and 6th week.
Well, exactly. I can understand having a clip show maybe in the first 25 episodes and possibly in the latter half of the 25 if it's needed to have that bye week. Because even American shows have to have that bye week. So that makes sense. But to have 2 in a row before we even get to episode 10 and call the second one the most epic battles of Trigger, when you only have 4 episodes to reference, no.
Alright, so one other thing I actually forgot to even bring up in my live stream before we head off from this video is, what would you guys think of us ever doing like a live stream watch of one of Trigger or Zenkaiger, where we'll record? Well, I can't, because of copyright, can't actually show you the TV screen, but have the thing in front of us so the audience sees us reacting to the stuff, and we talk about it after.
Yeah, and we basically record our reactions
live,
and then we continue after the episode giving our opinion. So let us know what you think. I think it would be fun, but it really is based on your interest level. If you really want to see us react, good, bad, or ugly, because I can honestly say it probably wouldn't be safe for work. Because I'd probably say something terrible. Because there were a couple of times when they said 1 hour monster that I had to keep my thoughts to myself. Because all I thought of was a Cialis commercial.
If it goes for more than 1 hour, please consult your doctor.
I just was like, okay, yeah. So let us know what you think. With that, I know I'm done, because we do have to get to Zenkaiger.
Click like, subscribe, the bell notification, whatever else YouTube has you clicking on to support us. You can support me on Patreon, Kaiju no Kami, Facebook, Kaiju no Kami, Instagram, Kaiju no Kami, Twitter, Kaiju no Kami, and my website, creativitybydesignllc.com. And why is the store not up yet? You said you were going to do that this weekend.
Oh, let me see.
Okay, whatever. Anyway.
Until
next time, bye.